Okay, welcome back. We're on day 2 of Unit 1. We're still in section R.3. We're reviewing polynomials from Algebra 2. And we're going to be able to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Just remember all the things that we've already learned. This first one is addition. Okay, so the two things in parentheses are the two polynomials that we are combining. And if it's addition, you simply combine like terms. So you can just drop the parentheses and combine like terms. Addition is really, really simple. Okay, so you really have to pay attention to what's between the two parentheses. This is addition. And then what I'd like to do is look at the variables, find the biggest one, and that'd be x to the third is the largest exponent. What I mean by the largest degree. Okay, the one with the largest exponent is your degree. Use that one first. I only have one x to the third term, so that's going to be 4x to the third. The next one down is x squared. I've got 5x squared and positive 3x squared. Remember, when we combine like terms, we keep the term, we just add the numbers in front, the coefficients or the numbers in front. So this is 8x squared, that's for my x squared term. For my x term, I have a negative 6 and a negative 5x, negative 6x and negative 5x. Just combine the coefficients, negative 6 and negative 5 is negative 11x. Okay, the term doesn't change. We only change the exponents when we're multiplying them. When we're adding them, we combine like terms. We keep the term and combine the numbers in front. And then finally what we've got is our constants, which is a +4 and a -8, so this is a -4. So just to review, if you're adding polynomials, you can just drop the parentheses and combine like terms. However, if you subtract, if you have subtraction, we got to do a couple things first. If we have subtraction, you change all signs of the terms that follow. Another way you can think of it, and some people like this better, is it's like you're distributing the negative through, it's like this is a -1 that you're distributing through the parentheses. So this can become a plus, but then every other sign has to change. This becomes a negative 6x to the third, negative 4x, because you want to change the sign. This is a -9, so it becomes a positive 9. These first terms all stay the same. These you only change what follows the subtraction sign. Now I can go through and combine like terms like I did before. My largest degree is x to the third. I've got 5x to the third, oh excuse me, negative 5x to the third and negative 6x to the third, so that's a negative 11x to the third. Right, and then my x squareds, I have 6x squared. It looks like that's the only x squared term I have, so that's going to be plus 6x squared. My next one is going to be my x term, so I've got 4x and negative 4x. Well, positive 4x and negative 4x is 0x, so that term drops out. It's 0. There's no term there. There's no value for my x's because they cancel each other out. And then finally, I've got negative 8 and positive 9 for my constants, which is a +1. And so that would be your final answer. Let me get that up there so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. And number 3, I'm taking this single term and I'm multiplying it times this polynomial. And what I'm going to do with that is distribute it. Remember, if you've got a number outside the parentheses, you distribute it through the parentheses. When we're distributing, we're multiplying. And this is going to go back to what we talked about yesterday. When we multiply terms, you multiply the coefficients. There's a 1 in front of that x squared. 1 times 5 is 5. And then for the variables, you add your exponents. 2 plus 2 is 4. Multiply coefficients, add the variables. So on this next one, when I take x squared times negative 6x, 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. My term is x. I have x squared. Remember, there's a 1 here if I don't see an exponent. So 2 plus 1 is 3, so this is 6x to the third. And then last, I'm going to take the x squared, I'm going to distribute it and multiply it times the 3. 1 times 3 is positive 3. And then I've got the x squared. I don't have any more x's to combine it with, so I just have x squared. So you're multiplying it, but remember your rules of multiplying variables. You multiply the coefficients, you add exponents. Okay, when we have a binomial times a binomial, we're going to, the common term that we use is FOIL. Remember, FOIL is first, so we multiply the two first terms together. Actually, I'm going to do this just a little bit different. I'm going to do it color coordinated a little bit for you. So F is my first term. That means I'm taking the first term of each parentheses and multiplying them together. So for F, I've got 3x times 5x. 3 times 5 is 15. X times x, we're going to add the exponents. Remember, those are both ones. So it's 15x to the second. That's what I get when I multiply my first term. The next is O of FOIL is O, and that's for my outer terms. My outer terms are going to be the 3x and the 2. So when I multiply 3x times 2, the coefficients 3 times 2 is 6, and then I have x to the first. The I in FOIL is for my inner terms. So now I'm looking at negative 5 and 5x. Negative 5 times 5 is a negative 25. And then I have the single x term. So this was my O. This is my I. And then the L of FOIL is my last term. So I'm taking negative 5 and positive 2. Negative 5 times positive 2 is a negative 10. And that's my last term. So first, outer, inner, last when you have a binomial times a binomial. And then the last thing you need to do is combine, make sure you combine like terms. And so I've got a 6x and a negative 25x. So it's 15x squared. I only have one x squared terms. 6x and negative 25x is negative 19x. And then I have the constant of minus 10. And that would be your final answer. Another way of thinking about it, that's more consistent when we have longer polynomials, is every term in the first polynomial has to be distributed with every term in the last one. So 3x times 5x, 3x times 2. Negative 5 times 5x, negative 5 times 2. Every term has to be multiplied with every term in the second polynomial. But FOIL is a great way to remember it if you happen to have just two binomials multiplied together. Okay. This is a parentheses squared. This is not, if this was 5x times 4 squared, I could take a power to a power, but it is not that. When you have this addition in here, I cannot take 5x and square it and 4 and square it. What this means is I've got two of these parentheses. So what it really does mean is I've got 5x plus 4 times 5x plus 4. Common mistake is that people will take each of these terms and raise it to the second power, and you cannot do that if you have a plus or a minus in there. If you have a plus or a minus in there, that means I've got two of those whole parentheses. Okay, they have to stay married, they have to stay together. Okay, now if I FOIL this, I multiply my first terms. 5x times 5x, remember this is x to the first. 5 times 5 is 25. X times x means I'm adding an exponent, so that's x to the second. Then I'm going to do my outside terms. So that's 5x times 4. 5 times 4 is 20, so that's 20x. Then I'm going to do my inside terms. I've got 4 times 5x. So my inside term is also 20x. And then finally I have my last term. 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Then you need to go back in and make sure you combine like terms. And the only term I have alike are those two middle terms. So I have 25x squared. When I combine like terms here, I take 20 plus 20, that's 40x plus 16. And then that would be my final answer. All right. Okay, when you have more than two polynomials that you're multiplying together, do two at a time. Only do two at a time, and then once you get an answer for that, then do the next one. So I'm going to start just by doing these two first. I'm going to take the x, remember that's x to the first, and I'm going to distribute it and get a new result for those two things multiplied together. X to the first times x to the second, add your exponents, that's x to the third. X times minus 4 is minus 4x. So that's my new binomial that represents that multiplication. And now I'm going to take that times this other binomial that I haven't done anything with yet. And now I'm going to work on that one. And now I have another FOIL problem. So I'm going to do my first term. This is x to the first, and this is x to the first. Remember, if we don't have exponents, we put a 1 on there. 3 plus 1 is 4, so this is x to the fourth. For my outside term, I have x to the third times 5, so that's 5x to the third. For my inside term, I have negative 4x times x. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. X times x, I add my exponents, that's x to the second. And then finally, for my last term, I'm taking negative 4x times 5. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20x. Then I see if I can combine like terms here. I don't have any like terms, they're all different. So that's my final answer, and that's really as far as I can go. Okay, so same concept. We're going to start, we've got 3 different polynomials here. Do 2 at a time. So first I'm just going to focus on combining these 2 here. And when I do that, I've got 2 binomials, so I'm going to FOIL it. My first term is x to the first times x to the first. That gives me x squared. My outside term, x times 5 is 5x. My inside term, 4 times x is 4x. And then my last term is 4 times 5, which is 20. And this whole thing, okay, I'll look for the last term, is going to get multiplied times this binomial. But first I'm going to combine like terms in here. I can combine 5x and 4x. So this whole thing becomes x squared plus 9x plus 20. So I've got a trinomial times 4x minus 1. Okay, now I can't do FOIL because I don't have 2 binomials. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to color coordinate so you can kind of see what I'm doing, is every single one of these terms has to be multiplied with every single one of these terms. So I'm going to start with the x squared. I'm going to take that x, just this term, and distribute it through the parentheses. So x squared times 4x is 4x squared. X squared times minus 1, oops, that's wrong, 4x to the third, right? Because 2 plus 1 is 3. And then x squared times minus 1 is minus x squared. Okay, and these 2 terms represent this first term multiplied times everything in the second polynomial. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it with the middle term. I'm going to do that one in blue. 9x to the first times 4x. 9 times 4 is 36. X times x, I add my exponents, that's x squared. And then 9x times negative 1 is negative 9x. And that's everything having to do with the 9x. And then finally, I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Notice every one of these gets multiplied with, gets distributed through the second parentheses, all of them. So 20 times 4x is 80x. 20 times negative 1 is negative 20. Now I'm going to go through and combine like terms. So my degree is 3, that's the largest exponent I have, and I only have one of those, so that's 4x to the third. And then I'm going to look at my x squareds. I have a negative x squared and a positive 36x squared, and those are the only ones I have, so that's going to be a positive 35x squared. Then I'm going to combine my x's. I have a negative 9 and a positive 80. That's going to be a negative 9 and positive 80 is a positive 71x. And then finally, my constant, I only have one constant, which is minus 20. And that is actually going to be your answer. Okay. Now, if you go back to number 5, remember what I said, if you've got something in parentheses and it has a plus or a minus, you have to keep that together, and that the exponent told me how many of those parentheses I had. I'm going to take that same idea, but we're going to apply it to number 8. This one has 3 of those parentheses. So this is like saying 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4. You can't just take them and multiply them times 3 or take them each to the third power. You have to have 3 of these parentheses, and we're going to do like we've been doing. We're going to do 2 at a time. I'm going to focus on just multiplying these 2 together first. So I'm going to FOIL this. My first term is going to be 3x times 3x. Remember the 1 on the x's. 3 times 3 is 9. X times x, we add exponents, that's x to the second. 3x times minus 4 is a negative 12x. That's my outside. My inside, negative 4 times 3, is also negative 12x. And my last, negative 4 times negative 4, is a positive 16. This whole thing, these two things multiplied together gave me this polynomial. I'm going to combine like terms to simplify it a little bit. So I have 9x squared minus 24x, because 12x and negative 12x is negative 24, plus 16. This is the new polynomial I get when I multiply those two binomials together. Now, I'm going to take that and multiply it times this third binomial, and we're going to do it by distributing every single one of these number terms of the polynomial with everything in the second polynomial. I'm going to start with the 9x squared. Remember, there's a 1 on this 3. 9 times 3 is 27. If I add the 2 and the 1, that's x to the third. 9 times negative 4 is a negative 36x squared. And that's all I'm going to do in red, because that's the only thing, that's what I get for that first term. Now I'm going to move to the next term. And I'm going to do the negative 24, and I'm going to distribute that with everything in the second term. Negative 24 times 3 is negative 72. X times x, I add my exponents, so that's x squared. Then I have negative 24 times negative 4. That's a positive, it's 24x. Negative times negative is positive, so this is a positive. 24 times 4 is 96. And I have the 1x term. And that's everything I can do with the 24. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the 16. It has to be multiplied with everything in the parentheses. 16 times 3x is 48x. 16 times negative 4 is negative 64. And then finally, we're going to go in and combine like terms. I have 27x to the third. That's the only x to the x cubed term I have. Negative 36 minus 72 is a minus 108 x squared. 96 and 48 is a positive 144x. And then I have a minus 64. And that's your final answer. So that takes care of your notes for day 2.